presentation. In case Vienna would like to host it. Okay, well, thanks for sticking around for all the sessions. This final session, I'll give you a little brief overview of what we call iDesign, or International Senior Design, which is run out of the Civil and Environmental Engineering program, but we've had at least several engineering majors participate over the years, and even a few non-engineering students. So I'll tell you how that could be done. These show some pictures from our travel to Panama. Okay, so for civil and environmental engineering students and other engineering majors would need to get approval from their academic advisors. The program constitutes a 2-semester capstone design experience. So you would be registered for CEE 4915 during summer track B, and that would include the 2-week trip, international experience. In recent years, we've traveled to Panama. I'll admit that might change this year due to the pandemic. And well, one other major thing that happened is we've often partnered with the US Peace Corps and traveled to Peace Corps volunteer communities. But as you may know, all the Peace Corps volunteers are now home. And so I don't think we'll have any Peace Corps volunteers to partner with this year in August 2021. Then this is usually at the end of the summer when we travel, and then we return for a 3-credit course in the fall, which lines up with our sort of regular on-campus senior design sessions. Other engineering majors, I mentioned that can have additional capstone design requirements beyond these 2 courses, so you would need to work with your advisor to make sure you meet all the requirements and get approval. And then there's an option for non-engineering majors can travel and participate in the assessment part of the trip. That's essentially what we do in the summer, is visit the communities, work with our community partners, and collect the data that's needed for design. And so certainly there's opportunities for non-engineering majors to participate in that part of the program, even if you're not enrolled in the design experience in the fall. So this is just showing a map of Panama. We've worked at sites really all across the country, as far east as, well, kind of the western part of the Darien. Actually, the eastern part of the Darien is not really safe because of sort of drug runners and so on. So we don't go that far east. But then we've had projects way out here in Bocas del Toro, up near the Costa Rica border. So, and then we've had a lot of projects in here. There's an indigenous, essentially, similar to our, like our tribal lands here. These would be tribal lands in Panama, this mountainous region here in Chiriquí. So the last time we traveled, we did not travel this year, of course, because of the pandemic, but we had 9 students and 2 instructors. Went down and worked in 2 parts of the country. I traveled with students out to the western part, and we had another instructor from our department work more in the central part of the country. The projects were all water supply systems. Actually, we had 3 teams last year. One was a gravity-fed water system, and the others did involve pumping. So I'll just mention we had a couple mechanical engineering students, which was very helpful to work out the electrical design and the pumping stations when we needed to pump the water. Just mention some other projects. We typically have footbridges. In one case, we actually had a vehicle bridge as well that was designed. Sometimes we're designing sort of upgrades or rehabilitation of old systems. We did that for a spring box system, capturing a spring up in the mountains and piping it down to a community. Students once designed an irrigation system, also small scale hydropower. Kind of unique, we had a team of chemical engineers one year that designed a charcoal kiln for a community, that doesn't happen often that we have communities producing charcoal, but this was being done on the outskirts of Panama City. And I think there's always opportunities for renewable energy projects as well. We have had electrical engineering students design solar photovoltaic pumping system for a community. So when we travel down, I mentioned it's 2 weeks in August. We go to Panama City, which is a very urban area, really a metropolis of about 2 million people. We stay at a place called the City of Knowledge, which is actually an old army base, but it's now been renovated. It's an educational center. Actually, consulting firms have offices there, so it's kind of a dynamic campus in the middle of Panama City. Then we travel out to rural areas. I show they're typically arranged by Peace Corps volunteers. There is another organization we've been working with recently, a nonprofit organization. And so we usually spend about a week or maybe 8 days in the communities. It can be very rural. That's why I like to show this picture of the thatch roof house. And this is actually their latrine. So they didn't build walls, but they had a tarp surrounding it. So anyway, I tell students to prepare basically for camping when we're traveling out to the rural communities. Bring a backpack, bring boots, rain gear, hiking equipment. Yeah, so anyway, there's more details on these slides than you need to worry about right now, but these get into the actual planning for the trip. Students are divided into teams, usually 4, but sometimes 3, sometimes 5. And the teams would travel together to the project sites, work together really as a professional consulting team. So collecting data for the projects. And then when we return in the fall, they're of course working together as a team on the design work. So we consider a range of factors to try to form these teams. Primarily student interests, what types of background you have and what your interests are for design work. But we also like to kind of spread out experience. We consider diversity of backgrounds and especially Spanish skills, which are important. It's great if we can have at least one team member who's competent in Spanish. And I'll admit, lo siento, I am not. Just here, I'll just highlight some related programs on campus. We have a new humanitarian engineering minor starting up this fall. This program, the iDesign program, fits right into that, provides the capstone design experience. There's also some coursework requirements that basically give you some skills in intercultural collaboration and community involvement. That's for engineering majors, but there's also a kind of a parallel minor called the interdisciplinary minor in global community development partnerships. It's kind of a mouthful, but those 2 minors are really complementary. The first one would be for engineering students who incorporate a capstone design experience into the minor. And the second one would be for non-engineering majors. Also engineering majors could qualify that as well. It's just that the design project wouldn't count for that. And then I'll also mention if anyone's interested in the Peace Corps, when they get up and going again, there's a Peace Corps prep certificate available through the Pavlis Honors College. And again, this program satisfies some of the requirements for that. And it also involves some volunteer work, some specific coursework related to a specific development area. All right, so a big question is, what is the cost of this program? It is rather expensive. This table here summarizes it, that you don't need to worry about the due dates yet. We're gonna have to see how things unfold this year. Those due dates might get adjusted if we are able to travel over the summer, but the major expenses in addition to tuition are really the lab fee is close to $1,000, but that includes all expenses in country for 2 weeks. All of your housing, all of your transportation, all of your meals are paid. We purchase the equipment that's needed. And then the airfare is the other major cost. Fortunately, in recent years, airfare has been pretty affordable. We've managed to get a direct flight from Chicago to Panama for right around $700 So anyway, if you add up everything on that list, it comes up to something around, maybe 23 to, if you need vaccinations, that would be more. So $2,300 to $2,500 in addition to the tuition. I know that seems like a lot. I've done comparisons with other university study abroad programs at other campuses, and for a 2-week experience, this is kind of on par. I've seen $5,000 to $6,000 programs for 5-week experiences, and this is a short-term experience. But anyway, just so you know what the costs are. If you're interested, feel free to contact me with any questions, or also just to get on an announcement list as we develop plans for this year. I usually keep a list of students who have expressed interest and give you updates, what we're planning. We usually have an information session in the fall, but what I've just talked about essentially covers the first information session. And then for students who are, I would say, really interested in considering it, we start with some planning meetings in the spring semester. So maybe late January to early February, we talk about the study abroad application, planning for the trip, forming teams. I do a little bit of preliminary assessment, but that actually could be taken care of in the summer Trek B course. So, maybe 3 meetings in the spring semester. There's also some courses from the social sciences department that I highly recommend. I was going to check this. Preparing for cross-cultural immersion experiences may not be offered every year, but there are similar courses. I know this course, SS 3961, is taught by Dr. Henquinet. Dr. Winkler, I know, also teaches a really good course. I don't know the number offhand, but it's for partnering with communities in research and any kind of project work. And then, of course, Vienna is the contact in international programs and services. So yeah, feel free to reach out if you want some more information about this. I think also this recording will be available if you want to go back and get any questions answered. And then, I have some links here, but again, if you have questions about any of these things, the minors that I mentioned, how this would fit into your degree, if you're in CEE or another program. I mean, I know from experience how other programs have fit this into their degree schedule. And of course, Julie Ross is the expert in CEE on scheduling and making sure you're on track to graduate. So, all right. So with that, let me just stop the recording, and then